Hi, this is Chris again. I'm here to talk about solving problem number 19. I'm an instructor at Shoreline Community College. So analyzing problem number 19 is what we have to do first. We have to figure out what are the pieces of information we need to solve for y. So when I look at this, we have a distance across the bottom of 4 708 thousandths. And what we need to do is subtract the distances from the outside of the blue circles, the larger circles, to the centers of the little white circles. This little section I'm showing now in brown. If we just subtract that distance from both sides, from the 4 708 thousandths, we can find out what y is. Part of that information will come from the radius of the circles. That will give us part of that distance. So what is the radius of the circles? The radius is the diameter divided by 2. So 750 thousandths divided by 2, which gives us 375 thousandths. That's the length from the outside edge of the circle to the center of the blue circle. Now if I construct a triangle from the center of that circle, I can get another horizontal piece of information, the brown side of that circle. Now the problem is, although I have one side of the circle, the white side, which is also a radius, I don't have the brown side or the angle. However, the angle is half of the angle of that notch. So half of 57 degrees. So if we divide 57 degrees by 2, we get 28.5 degrees. That's the angle in our little triangle now, toward the small circle. With these two pieces of information, I can calculate the brown side. So here's what we have. We have the opposite side, which is the radius of the circle, and we have the brown side, which will be the adjacent. So we need a formula that we can use to calculate the adjacent given the angle and the opposite side. Since we're looking for a formula with the opposite and the adjacent, we choose the tangent formula. And the tangent of our angle, 28.5 degrees, will equal the opposite over the adjacent. To solve for the adjacent, I first have to multiply both sides by the adjacent, and then we'll divide both sides by the tangent. So and substituting in our value for the opposite side, our final formula will be the adjacent side is equal to 375 thousandths divided by the tangent of 28.5 degrees. Here's the tangent for 28.5 degrees, and when we make that division we get about 690 thousandths. And that's side A. Now we know what side A is, we know what the white line, the radius, is, so we can add those two together to get the two segments we need for one side of the problem. Now since we have to do it on both sides, we're going to have to multiply that by 2. And when we multiply that by 2 and subtract from 4.708, then we'll have subtracted the segments shown on both sides, and we'll be left with y. So now I'll add those two numbers together, the 690 thousandths plus the 375 thousandths, multiply by 2, subtract from 4 708 thousandths, and finally round to 3 decimal places to solve our problem. So our final answer will be 2 577 thousandths. Thank you for joining us for this exercise. I hope you understood the lesson. Bye.